Hello, hello. Um, so recently I had the opportunity to do a solo show, um, and that opportunity brought up a circumstance where I needed to actually explain the meaning behind um, a lot of the work that I do. Um, and it just so happens that my artist statement wasn't very well received. And me as a person and an artist wasn't welcomed necessarily in that space authentically. And so that resulted in me deciding not to do the show at that particular location for now. But it brought up lots of topics that I wanted to like explore and kind of metabolize through art because that's what I do. It had me thinking a lot about the power of silence and the power of choosing not to tell the actual stories behind my work to everyone and letting it be left to the person experiencing the work to ponder and to engage with that work and decide what it means for them and what power that leaves me with because a lot of my work is very personal. It's created for healing reasons, and it's not always for every audience. So the way that I decided to just begin to think about like what does silence mean in art and what is like the impact of letting those silent moments stay and how can I you know another thing that like was coming to mind was like how do I take up space but do no harm because in so many instances the examples of taking up space that I have been shown have been when people take up space to the detriment of others in those spaces, and that's not a way in which I want to move. So then I started thinking about like shapes and how shapes in like 3D elements, how those things they take up space but they don't say anything. They're silent and they force you to reckon with what they may mean. And so then I started thinking about like different like symbols, like Ndinkra symbols, and like also like African like scarification and like mud cloth and just lots of things that are, perhaps like from my past and from like the past of like my ancestors in ways that they were able to communicate in ways that were silent. And so let me get to the point. So the way that I decided to like interpret this was through redesigning buttons. Um, at first, when I realized that like my message could be misconstrued, I started to think about like these buttons that we get where they advertise and they tell us things and like how different people can get different like feelings from them. But then I started to think, if I had to redesign a button with my message, what would it say? Um, and then I realized the things that I want to say, it's not always safe for me to speak up for myself in spaces. And sadly, and so then I started to yeah, so in exploring and Dinkra symbols, I started to think, well, if I can't say something, maybe I can make people feel my intentions and my message. And so this is my redesign of a button, and I decided to incorporate this Endinker symbol. This one can mean like greatness or leadership, or it's thought to be like the greatest of all the Endinker symbols. Um, and so it's just like concentric circles. And then the way that I created like this raised texture was actually with hot glue. So this was the first iteration of a button. It still has some cleaning up to do. Um, and I did a second iteration. In this particular symbol, where it goes like this. Um, this one means initiative or adaptability. Um, and the overall like process of creating these very much made me think about like Afrofuturism and like its principles of taking things from our past or our indigenous knowledge and technologies and ways of being and applying them to solve problems of today. Um, so, anyways, this is just me kind of like geeking out at this point. Um, but I wanted to go ahead and make a button with you guys. So let me go ahead and just go over some of the supplies that we're going to need. So we're going to need any kind of button that you don't mind repurposing. We're going to need glue. I mean, I don't know why. Yes, we will need glue. This is not glue. Um, Glue. So I have glue stick and I have Elmer's glue in a little cup that I may use, whichever one is going to serve me better. Then a piece of sandpaper or sanding block, and then hot glue. We're going to need any color of paper. So I probably will be using like strips of brown paper because I just like it. I have a lot of it, brown paper bag, but like any like leftover paper that you have. And then possibly you will need some kind of like paint, any color that you like works. I'm using white because I happen to get this as like a free sample at an art store. And I like the cleanness of just like the white because it allows me just to deal with just shape only. You're going to need a pencil to draw your design on to this button. And I'm trying to think, is there anything else that you're going to need? If you decide not to paint over yours and you want to seal it, you can also use, I wish my camera was higher, Mod Podge. They actually sell that at the dollar store now. If you're needing to have access to that at an affordable price and you don't want to like have too much of it, it's possible I forgot one of the materials that we're going to need, but let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that we're going to need to do is we're just going to go ahead and sand off this button. And the reason why we're sanding this down is because these buttons have like a lot of like plastic coverings usually, or some type of like finish to protect them, and it makes it a little bit difficult to put the actual design on there. Um, so the symbol that I actually want to just put on here, it's just some raised dots. This morning I was um, learning a bit about like different like scarification practices and like why they happened. Um, and they were just very much talking about how it's a symbol of like strength. It is a symbol of like um, fertility, like and willingness to like go through pain for the purposes of growth. So right now I'm sorry using this hot glue gun to actually add some shape and some dimensionality to this. Okay. Um, so there we go. These dots are on it. The thing that I like about this is like this process is it does have like a lot of imperfections to it. And I'm gonna show a piece of mud cloth right now while that's just drying for a bit. So this is a piece of mud cloth that my best friend's mom gave me, I think when I was like leaving high school, going to college. And I have just cherished this. I think she gave it to me because I studied fashion design and she was like, oh, maybe you can make something out of it. But like, I have just studied this. I studied the different patterns, the imperfections in the print. And I think a lot about the symbolism in these particular patterns and the thoughtfulness and confidence it took to make something so beautifully imperfect and to know when to stop. And um, yeah, those are lots of things that I think about when I am like studying like more traditional art forms. I'm learning that perfection wasn't didn't seem to be like something that was sought after. It was more a means of communication. Things could communicate like the status, life stories, the journey that you had been on. It also makes me think of like quotes, um, like that enslaved people would make to communicate. And how the different symbols meant different things, and you know those quotes. I'm just gonna sand the little dry glue beads a little bit because hot glue is basically plastic, so it has some of the similar characteristics. Okay. Um, and so I'm just gonna be putting hot glue onto here and then just adding the paper um, in strips. This paper is actually, I think it's in like an Amazon Prime package. um, and it's totally okay if the paper, you actually want the paper to go over the edges. And the reason for that is because we are just going to trim it down later. And, okay, so when we're getting to this part, you're going to have to massage like the paper around these little beads so that the shape does come out. And there is just something like about the actual physical act of like smoothing this down. It feels so good. So to all of my digital artists out there, if you're watching this, like, yeah, digital art is amazing, but I highly encourage you to try some type of physical art form, um, because there's just really something to it that I cannot describe. um, okay. This little middle piece, like a couple of the pieces broke, so I'm just gonna do some little tiny repairs. Make sure it's totally covered, because that will make like the painting process much easier. Any places like where the other color are of like that bright paper kind of showing through, I'm just going to take the time to put more paper down. Yeah, now I'm still seeing there's like a lot of pink showing through. So in that middle section, so I'm gonna go over it again. And like the layering process, like, yeah, it's quite enjoyable. Okay, same process as before. We're just massaging around these little pieces. Trying to make sure that the form is really like prevalent. Still a little bit of pink showing through. Oh, I'm gonna just add one more strip of the brown. Now I'm just going and connecting all of those under layers so that when we wrap this around, it will be able to come together with ease on that back side. And yes, I glue on top of stuff. Okay. So now if you can see, that shape is like really like 3D and prevalent. If I rub my hand across there, I can feel it. Okay, so now I'm gonna flip this over, and so my goal is gonna be able to wrap this paper over to cover that pink entirely. And so I think like about like a quarter of an inch would do it. I'm not measuring, I'm just drawing like a little line with my pencil around. You totally can measure that. I just am not one for perfection. Okay. So then after we do that, we're going to cut the excess off. And sorry, I apologize. I forgot to say that scissors were a tool that we were going to need. So hopefully you have some scissors handy. If not, pause the video. Okay, so if we were to try to wrap this around right now, it's not going to be the neatest. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut little, let me bring you up a little bit so you can see more of my messy table. Okay, so we're going to snip around, and that's going to make it so that we can wrap these edges inward. And okay, so now all of these edges are kind of frayed a bit. I guess that's what we'll call it. And then we may need a stronger glue, but I'm just going to try and use this glue stick again because that's what I have readily available. So I'm putting a bit of glue on the edges of the actual button, and then a bit of glue on the edges of the actual paper. And then we're just going to wrap these around. And you just add more glue as needed. Add more glue as is needed. We're going to keep wrapping. Okay. That little piece does not want to wrap. Okay. So, yeah, so we wrapped it all the way around. It's nice and snug. And we flip it over. I do kind of like this brown. I have the other two white buttons, and I'm not sure what color I would want to paint this one. I was thinking about painting it a chocolatey brown or black, because I like the way that the idea of like it hiding in plain sight, um, and not adding more to like the silence um, narrative and what can be said in the silence. Yeah, so I'm going to leave this as it is for now. But like I said before, if you want to paint this, just grab a regular paintbrush, paint over it, whatever color or colors you want. Um, it doesn't even have to stay plain. You can paint it multiple colors, like make this your own. This is just an idea if you choose to do this. Um, and then if you want to seal it at all so that it's like less apt to getting damaged after you paint it. So just to talk about like technicalities of paint, this particular paint is an acrylic paint. So it's like basically made of plastic, so it should be pretty protected. But if you wanted to, like, say you're using like you put paper on here and you wanted to paint it with watercolor, that would still be susceptible to like the environment. And so you want to go ahead and you can fill it with something like a Mod Podge, or like even if you have clear nail polish, that will work. Um, Clear packing tape would work. Um, yeah, so that's the end of that. Thanks for being here with me while I did this little chit chat, and bye for now.